Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me today on the Divine Messages podcast. My name is Karina, and I'm a psychic medium out of Calgary, Alberta. Today's episode is all about how there is no time or space when it comes to spirit. So many people ask me if an in-person session is better, and I think that sometimes when people think of a phone session, they may picture those old commercials like the 1-800 call a psychic. And honestly, I would probably think that exact same thing if I wasn't a psychic medium. Growing up, I would see those commercials and I really found them to be quite funny. Call in and for only 99 cents a minute, let me tell you your future. Look, there are some really amazing psychics out there, and there are also some really fake ones. I've met some good and bad ones along this journey of mine, and I've found that the best ones are the ones that do this work from a place of love and from a place of wanting to help others. Those are the light workers. And as light workers, their purpose is to help bring others into that light with them. But I've also met some psychics that come from a place of fear and ego. I've seen them do this work for the money. I've also seen that there are some that do it for power and to prove their abilities to others. And those are the ones that really do concern me. Their messages are not always from the greatest and highest of good. And I would suggest that if you were to book a phone session with a psychic, really try to use your intuition to see if that person is right for you. You can always check in with your spirit guides and angels and ask them. And if you're looking to do a reading for some guidance, ask your team to guide you to the person that is right for you at this very moment in your life, and they will. And so I think so many people are scared of phone readings for many reasons, and that really is perfectly understandable. But that's also why I felt guided to do this episode to help explain how it all works. I have been doing in-person, phone, and FaceTime readings since the very beginning of this journey of mine. And since March of this year, when the country started to lock down because of coronavirus, I have done more phone and FaceTime work than ever before. What I love about working with spirit is that there really is no time or space in between realms. And people worry about if their loved ones or messages will come through over the phone. But I felt it was so important to explain it this way. Spirit knows what you need, and no matter where you are in the world, they will guide you to the medium that they choose to deliver their messages and validate their existence. So you could be across the world, and they may choose a medium to work with you over the phone or FaceTime. You don't need to be in the physical presence of the psychic in order to have a good reading. It's pretty incredible how it all works, and to this day, I am still blown away with how they can do it. I just said this to my husband the other night. I had had an incredible reading for someone over the phone, and the messages were so specific and healing. She had been so worried about doing a phone reading, wondering how it was all going to work. But seconds into the session, all of her family that had passed showed up to chat. It was pretty cute as she kept saying to me, "Oh my gosh, how do you know this stuff?" And I had to keep reminding her that I was just channeling her loved ones. And that evening, when I was talking to Nick, I was telling him that I couldn't understand why I was chosen to be a psychic medium. Like, why me? How is this possible that my job is talking to spirits? And as I sat there in pure amazement, he started smiling from ear to ear and he said, "Honey, you've been doing this for years full time and you are still this shocked?" And I looked back at him and I said, "Actually, yes, Nick, I am. I'm still shocked and amazed. And I'm not sure that I'll ever fully wrap my head around it all. Even though I do this daily, I don't think I will ever not be amazed by it all. We're never alone, and our loved ones are never gone. They fully exist in another realm, and they help us from the other side, and that is the greatest gift in itself." One of the reasons I feel phone or FaceTime sessions are wonderful is because you are able to be in your space where you're safe and comfortable, and sometimes that helps you to relax a little bit more and let go and allow the messages to flow. And for me, I'm not going to lie, if I have a phone session in the morning, as that's when I love to work, I'm also comfortable as I sit in my robe while I'm sipping my coffee. So of course, if I have a FaceTime or in-person session, I do get myself looking presentable. And I do truly feel blessed that I'm able to work remotely because even during isolation, people are able to still connect with their guides for messages about their lives, but most importantly, they can still connect with their past loved ones. I really prefer to only know someone's first name because for me, it's way easier to connect to spirit. When I work with someone, I explain that I'm going to connect to their spirit teams and loved ones and ask them why they sent them to me. If I ask them a question, I tell them to only say yes or no, and I also let them know that if they have any questions, they can ask them at the end. But the amazing thing about a reading is that your spirit team already knows what you need, and they answer all of your questions before you even get to ask them. My favorite thing that happens is when a client has told their loved ones on the other side to mention something specific so that they know it's them. One reading I did for this lady was going so well. Her husband that had passed had come in giving her so much information that only she would know. And out of nowhere, he showed me his hands. Nothing else, just his hands. So I looked at her and I said, okay, I have no idea why, but he just stopped talking and he showed me his hands. I said he showed me how they were thick and that he had stubby fingers, and she almost fell out of her seat. She looked at me in shock and said, oh my God, I just told him in my mind that I really wanted to know if he heard my thoughts, and I asked him to show you his hands. How cool is that, right? They do hear your thoughts. They love when you talk to them. And as a medium, I love when Spirit can validate that. When I'm in a reading, Spirit does show so many things that only the client will know, and that could be their favorite sweater, their favorite food, or favorite place. But what I find to be the best part for me is that they literally teleport me to certain places. I could be sitting there seeing their outfit when all of a sudden I'm somewhere else, and this happens to me a lot. At one group reading that I did, there were 14 people, 13 women and 1 man, and I could see that when we all sat down ready to get started that he was really uncomfortable. And when I do group readings, it's a little different than a one-on-one. I have to tap into the other side and sort through so many spirits to see what's going on and who's going to come forward for the group. So as I did that, I was instantly teleported to this property. I was standing outside on the driveway looking at the home. And at this point, I didn't see anyone. I only saw the house. So as I started to walk up the driveway, and I mean that I'm doing this with Spirit in my mind, I was shown the dirt pathway, the front doorstep, and I even described the entire property and home to the group. And at this point, no one's saying anything. They're all looking at me, and maybe they were even thinking I was nuts. But I was at this place for sure, and it was so clear. It was crystal clear in my mind. Now, sometimes when I read, I have my eyes closed or I'm focused on something in the room, but I have a hard time looking at the client because it kind of makes things fuzzy for me. So after I finished describing this property, I opened my eyes, I looked at the group, and that one man was sitting there with his mouth wide open, and tears were pouring down his face. And he said to me, I know exactly where you are. That's my mother's home, and she's passed. And as soon as he said that, she popped right into my mind's eye, and then she blurted out all that she needed to tell him. He needed those messages so badly that day. I have a feeling that he may have thought that his wife had told him that he should come, but I know that it was his mother that had passed that had made him be there. Teleporting like that is one of my favorite things to do. That's why they say that there is no time or space with Spirit. I can be taken into the past, in the present moment, and into the future. And I find it all so fascinating. Spirit loves to take me on tours of their old homes or the home of where their loved one lives now. It's so cool. They take me through the front door, down the hallway, and into the bathrooms. They open closets and doors, and I sometimes even see what's in their fridge. And yes, that may sound weird, but your loved ones really want to prove that they are there with you by showing you that stuff. So many people freak out and say, oh my God, you're in my home right now, and they start apologizing for the mess, etc. And I'm like, look, I'm not here judging you. Your loved one is just really here to show you that they're with you and they haven't left you. About a month ago, I worked with a lady from Hawaii on a 60-minute phone reading, and her husband had passed only about a month prior to our call. They had been together for over 30 years, and she was just beside herself with grief. He showed up right away because he knew that she needed to hear from him. He had told so many things to help her know that it was in fact him. I remember telling her that he knew that she was sitting there in her floral nightie, and she asked me if he was right there with her, and I said, yes, actually he is. He's the one who showed me that. And then he told me to tell her that he was going to hug her. So I told her to close her eyes and feel his energy because he wanted to wrap his arms around her. She went silent for about a moment, and then all of a sudden I heard this deep sob. She said that she felt her hair on her entire body stand up, and she actually felt his arms around her shoulders. She couldn't believe it. She didn't know that he could actually do that. It was such a beautiful moment for both of us. And it kind of reminded me of that scene in Ghost where Demi hugs Whoopi and feels the husband's energy. That is how alive they are. They're just in a different place. I know I always have a lot of spirit around me at all times. I can feel them. I choose not to see them because I have my own life to live, but they do always make their presence known in my house. I'm used to this. It's my normal, and I actually, I find it really comforting because I never feel alone. Last year, a student of mine who is also a medium came to do some Reiki on me. I was face down on the massage table and she was working on my back. And all of a sudden she said, "Karina, there's so many spirits here from the other side, and they're all bowing in gratitude for all of the work that you do and how you choose to help deliver all their messages to their loved ones." And I could feel the room become so dense with energy. It was like I was in a warm cocoon of pure love. And I started to cry, but I'm talking like sobbing, ugly crying. And I don't cry very often these days, as I really did spend years shedding tears. And I feel pretty darn good these days. But that day I was so overwhelmed by the love from the other side that I couldn't hold it in. It actually makes me tear up, even now, just talking about it. These souls chose me to be their messenger, and that is such a blessing and a gift. And that is the point of this episode. No matter where you are in the world, your past loved ones will choose the medium for you when you are ready and open to hear from them, whether that be by phone, FaceTime, text, email, or in person. When there is a message or validation needed to be given, they will make it happen. I always say to my students that when the student is ready, the master appears. But the same goes for clients. When the client is ready, their loved ones appear. So I'm going to leave you all with this today. Know that there is no time or space between us and the other side. If they are ready to communicate, they will make it happen. You may have a friend that mentions a certain psychic medium, or you may just stumble upon someone and you may believe that to be a coincidence, but it's not. Nothing that happens is a coincidence. Everything happens for a reason. And just as you are here with me today on this podcast, it was not by accident. You were meant to be. Someone up above wanted you to hear these messages today. And just remember this, we are never alone. So I want to thank you all so much for joining me on the Divine Messages podcast today. And I hope you all have a lovely week, and I will talk to you all next Friday. Please bear in mind that the perspectives and opinions represented in this podcast are based solely on the Divine Messages interpretations. We can in no way be held responsible for the actions of our followers.